skip this rotation. I'll hit you on the next one.
I got it.
Oh, dang.
All right, looks like it might be picking up here. Verifying YouTube is streaming.
Unfortunately, Proctor, that is the only multi-factor authentication that they support, that particular platform.
All right, well, we are live and on the air on YouTube and Twitch. Welcome, everyone, to the Foolish Tech Show. It is finally Friday, and we're here mainly to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you have any of those, feel free to jump over to our IRC channel at foolishtechshow.com. We have a couple ways you can join our IRC chat from there, and we'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we may be talking about to focus on our products and services instead. Otherwise, we're going to fill the dead air with random shop talk and general what have you, and just keep in mind on that any opinions expressed here are of the views of the own individual and not of the company itself. So with that, how's everyone doing today?
Just fine. Thanks for asking.
Doing well.
A lot better than yesterday.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's all good. Good. Well, it looks like we might have Phoenix and Glenn in our chat. Welcome if you are both there, or either or of you are there. But I got something freaking awesome to start off the day with. This dude set up a living space inside of a storage shed, and I think he lived there for like 2 months. Obviously, if you tried to do this and get caught, you would be breaking everything that you ever signed to get that space. But he had a pretty freaking awesome setup, and just shows you what you can get out of a 10 by 10 space. On that same note, he also did a freaking awesome job on his Honda Civic, turning it into a camping car. And he's got a video that breaks that all down. Johnny, that is like what we need. We can't do it to yours because yours has a huge battery in the trunk. But the setup he did is like perfect. It's almost insanely good. The only thing we'd have to figure out is how Destiny could get in the back seat with the way that he had to fold the bed up. But I think we could work it out.
I think we could.
He's got it to the point though where he's got curtains going all around his windows, and they're attached with magnets and PVC pipe and zip ties, and like it blacks out the entire car. And then he's got LED lights going around the top of the roof if he needs to turn lights on and stuff. And he's got his trunk set up to be a makeshift kitchen, and oh man, it is freaking awesome setup. It's a great idea. And then the other side of it is the storage locker thing. Lots of nifty little ways to conserve space and still have all the same stuff. It's freaking like the dude's got a fully working surround sound system and a 4K TV in there. Like, that is just like, wow, he really went to set all that up. But yeah, it's a pretty sweet little setup there, and I could see ways that, like, especially if you took both of these ideas and kind of combined them into like a van or something, you'd have a pretty sweet mobile setup going around places and stuff. So highly recommend checking out both those videos. Fairly well done. Fairly well done.
Are you able to Oh, apparently I wasn't in the chat. Are you able to get to this if I send it your way? That link?
What is this link?
No, it looks something interesting. I want to read it and share it if it was possible, but it looks like it's being hit too hard.
I'm just getting a spinning circle on it.
I got an error about it being resources unavailable.
What is that?
Anyway, it was apparently it's just popped up here, but there's an open source codec that's able to encode voice apparently in only 700 bits per second. 700 bits per second.
If you want to see what we're talking about, I just posted that link there for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing that of the little snippet, of course, I wasn't able to follow it up, but this is apparently done by a guy who's had a lot of experience in the field. But it would appear that this would allow existing storage to potentially record a lifetime of voice, and like on your smartphone, basically, if this were enabled for that. Now, they do note that this system won't help conventional VoIP, so it won't be like your VoIP suddenly uses zero bandwidth so that's an issue of adoption. But certainly for if it can apply to, let's say, something like a cell phone voice recording, which they alluded that it could, that seems pretty amazing. For just that one purpose. I mean, it's not high quality voice, it's not high fidelity voice, but if you did want to record everything you said in your life, now that's something you could do without having to be concerned with storage requirements of that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
I kind of need something that records all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you'd love it to have video and everything else, but
Yeah.
that's
Well, I'm
not.
like, no, you said this.
Yep, Johnny knows exactly what it is.
Well, apparently, a single IP packet could carry 15 seconds of speech. So
that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Anyway, I love kind of those wow things, but
well, it'd be easy to apply to an app like Voxer or something where you record your voice and then it sends it over.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I just really would like to see something, though, in the real world take advantage of this, what it ends up finding its way into. But again, being that it's open source, may be good and may be bad for some things. Obviously, commercial people may not want to adopt that possibly, but it certainly might be a good option for, again, like personal communication. But then again, if it is just for that, then it's really up to, I guess, you to implement it, not wait for somebody else to. So I'll keep an eye on that. That could be very interesting, though.
Sounds cool. I thought this was pretty interesting footage as well. Somebody was flying their drone around the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington, and ended up crashing into the top of it. And it looks like people were working up there at the time, and they haven't released whose drone it was or who was piloting it, but it did have the serial number on the drone, probably the FAA mandatory registration thing, which is exactly the case that was implemented for. But Seattle doesn't have any like specific anti-drone laws, which, man, I wish I had known about that before. But they are considering charging the pilot with reckless endangerment, which has a maximum of a year in prison and a $5,000 fine. And they're not sure if it was a single pilot or if they were filming for recreational or commercial purposes. But I did like at the very end there, apparently the CEO of Space Needle said, "It looks like the drone tractor beam we installed on the Space Needle is working. This is the third time we've recovered a drone on our property." I like that they have a little bit of humor in that.
Yeah. I mean, as long as he's not being serious.
Yeah, it didn't hurt anybody, and it was good. But when you watch the video, I was like, how did those people get up there? Because Johnny and I went there this past summer, and there's like you can see where the disc expands. That's where your regular viewing area is. And Johnny swore that somebody she knew went all the way to the very top, but we couldn't figure out how you do that. And from what it looks like, those people were maintenance workers, possibly putting up lights or something like that, or taking them down from the holidays. So I can see why they would consider causing reckless endangerment, because if you watch the video, it does actually crash into it, and like it pretty much scares the crap out of all the workers that are up there. And that's like not a place that you want to have something falling out of the sky and surprising you while you're on uneasy footing there. So
You don't want to get startled up there for sure.
no, definitely not. And they definitely were startled, and it could have been very bad. I mean, if it had hit somebody and knocked them off, that would have been terrible. But he did get some really good footage. Whoever got it, got some pretty good footage. Unfortunately, they're gonna face some consequences for it, though. So make sure you stay far away from tall objects.
Sorry, I have
Probably not a good
fun-
idea to crash any type of aircraft into tall buildings.
No.
Speaking of aircraft, and it is Friday the 13th, so I hope you'll allow me to share.
Oh, really? Are you gonna do the stupid Finland thing?
Oh, come on.
Nobody
Come
cares.
on. Really? Have you guys seen it all?
They
It's-
haven't seen it. Go
Okay.
ahead and post it. You brought it up already.
Alrighty. Well, this is, let's say, we'll call this the flight to HE double hockey sticks.
It's not though.
Um,
It's only the flight to HEL.
yeah. So it's just funny, a weird combination of events. They're flying to Helsinki, I guess, in Finland, and took off from Copenhagen, bound for Helsinki. It was Finnish Air Flight AY666, and because of the association with that number and certain biblical references to the devil or something like that, yeah. That was that. I guess there's a couple people posting that. Is this a
It's
recent
like,
event?
please try to stretch as far as you can to get news or any kind of like.
I know, but I
Really?
mean, I know it's just a random flight number, but I mean, it just so happened to be that on this day. It's, I don't know. Yeah, it is a stretch. You're right, but I mean, isn't that part of your
how
nature
many
to look for?
how many other times is that? I mean, obviously that's the tail number, so that flight's obviously taken off quite a few times, and I doubt it's the first time it ever went to Helsinki. So it's just like, man, really? Why would
Well,
somebody?
okay, but look, random license plates that aren't, well, I guess that's a good example. That never happens. Really, it never happens. But, all right, forget it. My apologies. I
Yeah,
just thought
exactly.
maybe someone would like
And
to.
that NBC brought this up. Man, that's like, man, do they not have anything better to talk about? Really, that's the best thing they came up with today was, 666 flight number went into HEL on Friday the 13th. This is news. Cancel all the other stuff we had. This is the stuff we want to talk about first up. I did see it, and I chuckled at it that it would come to that. So I'm glad that you brought it up.
Mm.
On better news, Weird Al Yankovic is going to have a box set coming this November with all of his albums. He's been making parody popular music for 33 years now. And the cool thing about this box set is it's going to come in a fake accordion box. That's pretty sweet. It's going to run you about $500 though. The cheapest one is $200. and the priciest one is $475. And if you're a really big fan, you can get a test pressing set featuring all of his albums on vinyl, but each one will arrive signed and numbered by Weird Al himself. Only 27 of those are going to be available, so sign your $1,500 over now. A lot of music though. He's got a lot of music.
I got some first stable report, some early stable reports of you'll know they're just you know, the inside joke. They're just now catching up to you, Brantley, but it looks like the i7700 is actually getting to the speed we talked about.
The speed my computer runs at?
Yeah. Let me get you guys a link, and let's see if I can stick that.
Is that not the same as the overclocking one, or is that straight speed?
Well, this is a I guess I'll put them both. Okay, so this is a link.
Oh, that one's going to 5.2 gigahertz.
Yeah, so they
a little bit faster than mine.
just a regular site with some you know, it's a good board, and it's supposed to, you know, it's designed for overclocking, and they do got some neat, you know, pretty high end water cooler on it, but it's a stable 5.2 gigahertz on liquid cooling, and that's basically that's the new high that I've seen. But that other link is a website that I sometimes read that goes over these types of things, and they're able to stably get 5 gigahertz in their tests, and apparently that was just very early on with it. In other words, without too terribly much effort. So this is good news. This is the first, like I said, reports of it. Other than extreme overclocking, you know, there've been some. Obviously, if you use liquid nitrogen, you can push things further. But that also goes to support. Remember the company that's selling pre-overclock.
Can you put liquid nitrogen in any of the liquid cooling sets, or you have
No. That's not how it works. When they do liquid nitrogen, they literally pour it in special containers on the board. The boards have to be basically submerged in something that will coat them to prevent any condensation from affecting them, and then it literally has to be hand poured as necessary. And you can't let the temperature. It has to be well controlled. You can't let the temperature drop too quickly. You have to kind of.
So it's
The ramping up process. It's a big show, and it's smoke and mirrors. It literally, because there's all this dry ice smoke, or all this liquid nitrogen smoke coming out.
I got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
How is the vegetable cooling comparative to liquid cooling and
Excuse me, the vegetable cooling.
vegetable oil? No, you can put electronics in vegetable oil, right?
Yeah. I'm aware of this. Their vegetable oil doesn't carry heat as well as other types of. But water is very good at carrying heat, and so typically water with additives is what they would use. It's about the being able to move heat around, and so you have to have something that's really good at that. And even though, yes, you could just submerge it in that, you would need to have some place to keep it cold and have the heat kind of be uniformly circulated and dispersed throughout the liquid or whatever, you know, the liquid medium that you would be using or submerging your processor in. So I believe that's the reason.
Yeah, the ones I've seen, they have. Here's a site that does it for you. They like it. It does move the stuff around. There's a site that.
I have not seen anybody talk about, any professional cooling circles talk about doing something like that. I've seen some experiments where they have submerged things just for fun, and certainly those are great, but as far as attaining low temperatures, I've never heard that as part of the discussion. That's the only reason I question.
Cool though.
I think there's a lot of things that look cool but have no otherwise function or purpose. But you know, I just think there's more readily available, cheaper materials to get the job done that actually probably perform a little bit better. But cool is cool. You know, if you're going for aesthetics, certainly. Like for instance, my friend just got a case, and I have you guys seen this? It's one of the first time I've seen it, but an infinity case. And so you basically look at, you know, it looks like the sides are closed or whatever, and you look in the front of it, and it's got like mirror on mirror looking, you know, kind of infinite depth, and you can't see the computer on the inside, you know. So if you're just like, you know, I mean, obviously you'd know what was going on, but you know, if you just casually, it might shock somebody if you just quickly had them look at it. Be like, yeah, look at my cool new computer, look in there, and they do, and they're like, oh shit. Anyway,
I have looked
Sorry.
at that site before, and I was just reading it over again quickly here. Okay. But I was reading the frequently asked questions again, browsing over it. They have two good ones at the end. They say, dude, put fishes in your tank. And they say, no, they would die. And then they say, okay, no fish, but how about :/horses? Seahorses.
but oh geez, okay, we're getting to that point already.
Glenn's got a post for us, something to print for next Halloween. Let's see what that is. Ooh. Oh, that's cool, from Alien. That'd be awesome. Oh, speaking of 3D printing, it looks like you'd have to make that one in pieces for this one, but I came across an article here that says the best 3D home printer for beginners. It does look really nice.
Oh, I just clicked on his link. I just clicked on Glenn's link. Yeah, thanks for that. I was a big fan, particularly of the original movie. So yeah,
I'm excited about the new one coming up. That's gonna be awesome.
I am too. But that series seems to swing up and down, and they tend to have more poor ones than really good ones.
Whatever, the last one was freaking amazing. I say.
Which one do you call the last one? What was it? Versus.
No, Covenant or whatever. Not Covenant. What?
Was there one I missed?
No, the one that this one is the sequel to.
Covenant.
That's what I thought it was.
Prometheus?
No, yeah, Prometheus.
Yeah.
Covenant is
Covenant's the new one.
Prometheus.
Yeah, but we talked about that. I didn't think Prometheus was terribly as good, and they just literally killed someone by dropping a ship on top of him, which I think.
That's awesome.
I don't know.
And the other person survived when they had the ship dropped on them.
It
awesome.
Seems a little, you know. I mean, come on.
I mean, to me, that's better than someone getting in a big mech warrior.
I wanted to see more. I want to see more of the elements that were in 1 and 2. I want to see dark and scary, and I don't think they're going to make it until the very end, you know, type, you know, survival type thing. I wish they would incorporate more of that. I wish
she was going to make it. Even at the very end, they made.
I didn't care if any of them made it, because there really was no. There really wasn't the traditional alien like you know, you think about, and those, you know, projections or guys and the taking off. And that was just seemed, without further explanation or without expanding on that story, it just seemed a poor start to me, to a new story, a new alien story.
I think it was freaking amazing, and
my opinion is my opinion, of course. And I'm hopeful that it will be. Maybe it'll change my mind. Maybe it will.
I agree with you.
And make me like the first one more. I don't know.
The beginning, the first one. I mean, that's why the first one did so well, is because they didn't show anything. Like, I think you only got to see the alien. I don't even know if you got to see the alien in one full scene. You only got little pieces and bits of it. And
well,
made it really dark.
You did. And the first one, it was very, very dark. But there was always an issue with illumination and the aliens. You saw just enough to kind of really make you scary, just enough to see the slime or something like that. But they did show it off. They did show what the chest burster off. They certainly had the face
Yeah, they
hugger
showed that
aspect lightly shown at the beginning, and they did have a few scenes with the full-on, particularly the whole end, the whole last 5 or 10 minutes of the movie with the Ripley, trying to shoot the alien out the airlock. That
yeah, that's
was
right.
you saw Phil on well what that looked like, but it was the thing about being in the ship, crawling in small spaces, and just the general atmosphere of the movie contributed to an overall feeling of horror and fear. And the same thing applied to two. Now they threw a whole lot more action in the second one in Aliens, a ton more action. It was more of an action horror, but they still had those dark horror aspects. And yeah, and it was and
But I
the
mean,
second one had a great director too. I love Cameron. So
I'll say for the Prometheus one, I wasn't looking at it like an Alien series. Like I was looking at it as a
if you looked at it on its own right, sure,
yeah.
I can take it a little bit better. I can take it a little bit better.
Plus, I like the whole trying to find out origins of man, which was pretty much the whole basis of that movie. So
Glenn talks about his dislike of prequels, and You Know Who Survives. I mean, yeah, there just isn't, at least, I mean, I don't read the comic books for the aliens and have gone into some of the books or whatever that they have, so I'm not clear what their universe completely entails, except from the movies. I've only seen it from the movie perspective. That being said, I didn't have any information particularly on anyone who was in Prometheus. And other than Charlize, her background, but that's real life Charlize, not the person she played in the show. So anyway,
well, that was what was also nice about the Alien prequels is they didn't have any characters other than the aliens from any of the other movies. I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, Sigourney's still alive and still acting, as far as I know. So I would love for her to put in a cameo in a new one, if at all possible. But that might be impossible because of the storyline. But
yeah, I was gonna say they'd have to figure out how to work that in, and unless they start adding in time travel,
she could be an ancestor or descendant or something, or descendant, I guess. I don't know, something like that.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I agree with you. I think the whole alien predator
Or ancestor
combo thing was not a good idea.
I mean, the first one was somewhat all right. I don't think it was all that bad. The second AVP was I saw it a little bit more recently. It was stupid kids and high school kids fighting them, and I thought that was just a odd plot. That's when they went to Earth, but all they did was screw with this one small town, and that was it. My opinion,
I think any of it was very good.
Yeah, my opinion. I'm not complimenting the second one.
I think both those series are amazing on their own right, but when they started combining them together, it was kind of like the Freddy versus Jason thing. It's like
I do think their universes are compatible, though. I do think
they are compatible, but they just didn't play it out right. It did a horrible job with it. In my opinion, I feel like they could have done way better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would have been awesome if they had them on like their own planet, and that's how they set it up.
I would so love to see, but the aliens were bioengineered to some extent, so I'm not sure if that storyline.
I mean, I'm just saying, like they had a planet specifically designed for aliens and predators to fight it out.
Yeah, well, they did have Predators 2 or Predator 2 or whatever it was called, basically took a group of humans to what was effectively an alien hunting or a predator hunting ground, rather. And that might have been encapsulated a plot like that. But hey, listen, let's switch topics because I don't know if everybody's following us as well as we are. Remember that laptop that was stolen?
Yeah.
Did you ever do the follow-up on that where it showed up?
The razors?
Yeah.
No, what happened?
Okay, so it looks like I'll post the link here. It looks like the laptops were found and they showed up on a Chinese auction site. So I guess it was China, not Russia, that stole it. saying that somewhat in jest. I don't know exactly the details of how it happened.
It's interesting that it ended up on the auction site, though.
Yeah, it
Why
is,
would
and how
you
fast.
sell that? I would have freaking kept one of them at least.
Well, you know, this obviously shows that the theft was motivated by financial reasons. You know. And,
Yeah, possibly. Well, speaking of new and awesome things coming out, Nintendo did its whole Switch event, I think yesterday, and we got a new Legend of Zelda coming out with it. And this article is the one I'm going to point out. There's been several articles pointing all this stuff out, but what I liked about this one is apparently they are keeping the motion sensing. So the controller pieces that slide onto the Switch to make it portable and stuff, and then also combined together to make a controller, those are actually still going to be motion sensor activated, so they're not getting rid of that.
they confirmed the. I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you? They confirmed the pricing of the Switch. Did you report that?
$300.
Yeah,
On that article.
There was speculation that it could have been as low as I think $250.
Yeah.
And I think people will be a little bit disappointed to find.
But I mean,
let's put it in.
You're getting two systems in one. I think you're getting a great deal.
I get you the two systems in one, but what I've heard from some developers, some Switch developers, is that they don't see a huge demand for that dual functionality. At least it's not being communicated to them. Now, I don't know if that's just the developers being, fearful of new changes and different ways.
Well, I mean, you have to figure out how to design your game for two different resolutions, essentially. And
yeah, there may be complication issues with that. Anyway, I'm hopeful. I generally like Nintendo.
I mean, it sounds like a good idea to me. And if you have a console and a handheld, then you're spending probably $600. If you could spend $300 and get one, that would be a good deal.
But if
maybe they should make content that's for.
But what perchance if that
higher resolution and the smaller handheld screen?
I think they are going to have that, and then have games that are able to switch back and forth. I'm not sure. I haven't checked into the developer side. Apparently, Michael's been talking to Switch developers. So
no. I've heard some reports of other people who had talked to them, and so I am just repeating hearsay. But at any rate, the controller aspect, I think, as you were focusing on, did seem to be kind of cool to me, I suppose.
Some people have said it's not the best controller design, which I can kind of see that, but with any controller, I mean, it's just something you have to get used to.
There's always going to be criticism. Yeah.
Nintendo has always been one that makes their controllers a little bit different from everybody else.
Yeah. So the developer link, by the way, I'll post that. This maybe you can interpret it better than I did, but
yeah. But yeah, my biggest thing is I'm super excited that they're keeping the motion play into it, because when they announced it originally, they didn't really draw that point out or tell you about it, and I was like, are they just giving up on the Wii? Did that not work out for them? I mean,
they will be launching the Zelda game for the Wii U as well. Did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah,
get it on the old ones too.
They are, but I also, that same place I heard that said that they quoted it as the almost dead or the dying Wii U. So I don't get the impression that there's a large fervent community of those users out there, but apparently enough to warrant a release for their platform.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nick has a Wii U, and I enjoyed playing with it. The kids liked playing that Super Mario Maker. Is that what it's called? And then you design the level on the little gamepad thing, and then you can play the level on TV. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
and it works out well because you can have people playing other stuff on the TV while you're doing the thing on the little gamepad. So.
And I must confess, I also too tend to read places that are frequented by probably larger by PC gamers, so they tend to be more critical of console gamers, just as a general rule of thumb.
As they should be. I mean, I honestly do not encourage anyone to buy a console. I think it's a complete waste of money. You get so much more out of a PC, and it can do everything a console can do, if not more.
Except play Legend of Zelda.
Far more. You're gonna have to wait a little while to do that, but yeah, that's the only thing. That's kind of what I hate about people buying consoles is they're encouraging that proprietary game release system. So, like, it upset me so bad that I couldn't play Grand Theft Auto until a year after PlayStation and Xbox had it, because they signed stupid deals with them that said they can't release it on PC until we've had it for a year for our consoles. And that just upsets me so much, because the PC version of Grand Theft Auto is always better than the console one. If you can go in and make your own cars, how can that not be better? It's just so much better. Anyway, we won't focus on that too much. I thought
heated up like I used to get heated.
I thought this was pretty interesting. Nick, you might want to pay attention to this one too. You might end up spending $5 a month on it though. Is Amazon is coming out with their first branded channel, and you get a full-time streaming option, and their channel is anime. So if you enjoy anime and you're a Prime member, for an additional $5 a month, you can get Anime Strike, is what they're calling it, and you'll be able to watch all the anime stuff on it. So,
Okay,
I thought that was pretty neat. Well, you have someone that is a big fan of anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn's mentioning that brought my first PC to control stuff, then discovered games. Now I have a family of Raspberry Pis and Arduinos. They do the controlling. Now I have discovered you can game on the Raspberry Pis.
Yep.
That's very true. While I'm a little
Games is what got me into computers originally. I was playing games.
Oh yeah, I mean the games were a big motivator back in the day. But as far as the Raspberry Pis, they can be used to play things like Minecraft if you're into that. I'm not, and I don't think Nick is here either. But they also certainly the emulation for consoles who traditionally PC lovers don't.
Proctor, I was going to bring that up, that you can play Legend of Zelda. In a few years, you'll be able to, when they reverse engineer it and put it on a PC.
It would be through emulation.
Yeah,
right.
But you will be able to play it. Just
in a few years,
you'll have to own it.
You
still have to own
it. Hey, if you want to reverse engineer it sooner,
no thanks.
You'll get it a lot faster.
It's not necessarily reversed engineered.
That might take 20 years.
Black box emulation. Basically, you can send various signals to it and see what happens, and then go about building a emulation device that way. So you're implying reverse engineering implies that you have something and have access to it, and you're digging into it, and then you're rebuilding it based upon that original manufacturer's designs, just with your whatever changes.
I mean, it is somewhat reverse engineering.
Usually considered to be legal in some cases, but
if you're that's how they came out with IBM compatible.
No, well, not really exactly at all. The IBM compatible thing was a weird issue. IBM required a second source for their chips, and so both Intel wasn't the big player that they were back then, and that being the case, they needed a second supplier. That second supplier was AMD. So from the beginning, AMD had a license to Intel's processor technology, and allowed them to also work with those third-party OEMs to develop machines around it. It was not, that wasn't the only piece of it. There's a lot more. Compaq, the story of Compaq being the first, and other factors, the launch of the PS2, but a lot of it had to do with the actual CPU.
Yeah, but the biggest thing was the fact that you they were able to run the same software, and that had to have the BIOS and all that stuff compatible.
That's
They had to reverse engineer that to be able
that's
to get it to them.
true to some extent, but
And
it
I
was
consider reverse engineering if you take what it's supposed to do and make it do it on something else. You
there
have to
there
reverse
were cases, like for instance, there was a common case when the EGA graphics cards were launched. Basically, when software developers started supporting it, they literally put in a check for the BIOS string of and they looked for IBM string that they had put in their boards, and there was clone EGA boards that were put out, and they basically they dumped it, and then they found out that the string was used, and they basically just included that text into their BIOSes. You could.
Glenn says that
we're arguing over the.
was not really on the scene as such.
Well, they very much were, Glenn, in the sense that they were the second source for the original 8088 processors that IBM used in their original IBM PC. They weren't on the scene as such as far as being a house name, but neither was Intel at that point in time, frankly, although more so than AMD was at that time. Yeah, and the original IBM PC did not use the 8086. It used the 8088, as I recall.
It is interesting that
they
AMD
skipped
was
that
actually
one.
founded in 1969.
Yeah, AMD was founded a long time ago.
This is what I was talking about, though.
AMD was the second source. They literally had both AMD stamp and Intel stamp on the original 8088 processors and those early ones. And yes, they did produce early 286 clones, but those were still the two. They weren't clones. They were pin compatible. They were exact design complements.
Hey, calm.
Wasn't until the
You're
380.
aggravating. Michael, just stop it. My ear is starting to hurt. My 486 had both names on it. Who cares? Move on. They fucking made, excuse me, it's Friday. They made them for Intel. They manufactured them. Mine was. Just move on.
All right. So you can now call an Uber from Google Maps or a Lyft directly from Google Maps. I thought that was pretty neat.
Thank you.
Both. And let's see, there was something else. Oh, this was pretty interesting. If you've ever wondered what it's like to be caught in an avalanche, someone was and caught it on camera, and they did survive it, so that's good for them. But yeah, it's pretty crazy being in an avalanche. That was one of my biggest fears when I was doing the snowboarding thing, was being in an avalanche area. That's kind of why we stuck to the ski resorts, although the ski resorts are extremely expensive. So we did start off our first times on national forest and back areas, but we never went to a really avalanche prone area. But it is pretty scary seeing avalanches, and they take out a whole mess of stuff real quick. Let's see what else we got. So I was wondering on this, I didn't get to read the whole article, and I'm not as familiar with the Fibonacci sequence as I probably should be. But apparently you can use it to quickly convert between miles and kilometers.
I did not know that.
So for example, yeah, I just posted it. For example, 8 miles is about 13 kilometers. 13 kilometers is about, or 13 miles is about the same as 21 kilometers. So essentially, if you have miles and the first number, the next number is going to be what the kilometers is roughly, and vice versa. If you have kilometers, the previous number is going to be what is in miles, basically. So if you're going 89 miles per hour, you're going about 144 kilometers per second. Or if you're going 89 kilometers, you're going about 55 miles per hour.
That's that's interesting because the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence, and so most anyone can write it out, relatively easily. So it's not something you have to memorize at all. You do realize that it's each character is the sum of the previous two characters. Yeah. So
I'm saying, like, I don't have those first. I mean, obviously, you probably wouldn't be going over 89 miles per hour, but I don't have those first ones, so I'd have to write that down and calculate each one. I could probably just say, "Okay, Google," before then.
well, I mean, yeah, but I think it's a novel way instead of having to. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you really should just learn the conversion formula to begin with and not and memorize that. But
But no, I mean,
Fibonacci sequence is fun. I just think, yeah. You do with it in a computer programming, it's one of the first things you learn how to program is Submerged sequence when you're doing recursive code too and stuff.
It is pretty cool that that it works out that way. I felt so. Cool there. Then let's see what else we got. Oh, Europe is scared of robots. Apparently, they are calling for a mandatory kill switch on all robots. Great way to take the first step there, Europe. You're really making a good first impression on robots. They're going to remember this. They don't forget. But yeah, so hopefully the robots won't figure out how to prevent people from using the kill switch, which seems like the obvious downfall of requiring that, but we'll find out in the future, I guess. It also thought it was wanted to have it related to the fact that a growing number of our areas in our daily lives are increasingly affected by robotics. So they're worried about losing control of our life because of that. Let's see what else we got.
Oh, whoops. I guess that didn't.
Well, that's not as easy as the Fibonacci sequence.
It's pretty easy to me. If you 30, if you want to go to kilometers, start with miles, and you just need to know how many. You got 30, so 30. You take 30 divided by 2. I mean, that's easy. And obviously round numbers make it easier. So I guess if you had 47 or something like that, well, no, even then it's still pretty easy. Just moving decimal places, really. And if you can't divide a number by 2 pretty close, you can round up or whatever, but you don't have to be exact, I guess, to get it as close as the Fibonacci formula. I don't know. There's a lot of alternatives, I guess.
I'll just say, okay, Google. So we talked about seahorses randomly off of that oil PC link, and apparently a first has been captured of the ruby sea dragon in the wild, which it looks like a seahorse. Maybe it's not a seahorse. It's a sea dragon.
Ooh.
That sounds cool.
Ruby sea. This is the first footage ever.
Until recently, only 2 species of sea dragons were known to exist, the leafy sea dragon and the common sea dragon. Both of these creatures exhibited leaf-like appendages, which they used for camouflage in lush seaweed and kelp meadows.
They do look like dragons, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean, kind of without the wings, but yeah.
Yeah, they don't need the wings underwater.
No, not as such.
Maybe that's what happened to
the color, though. The coloration of them is amazing. It's a bright color.
Let's see what else we got.
Thanks for sharing.
I think I got some new stuff. Let me see what we got up here. Oh, if you've been holding off on getting started with your Raspberry Pi, even though we've been talking about it so much, here's a pretty good article on how to get started using the WD Pi hard drive, which, I mean, you can essentially apply to any hard drive that you want to hook up like that. But going through and telling you how to partition it and set things up for that and things of that nature. Pretty cool. And I thought this was a super cool animation. NASA used a supercomputer to figure out the wind turbulence that a drone causes. And just looking at that GIF that they got on the beginning there is pretty crazy to think about. That's what all is going into making a drone fly. And I would think these kind of things would have a major effect if we start moving towards using drones as our flying car options, since nobody's come out with anti-gravity yet. So disappointed, science.
Of course.
But it looks like right now that's probably our best option to get a flying car is probably going to be something similar to drones, or like a propeller jet engine mix, or something like the Harrier jets. But those are all fairly expensive options. So there have been drone things that have been made to carry people already. So that's probably what we're going to be looking at with flying cars. And what I was saying is interesting about it is the fact that they're going to have to take that into account when they design how you're allowed to fly. Because, I mean, they're not going to be able to just allow you to fly anywhere you want. And then even on that, you're going to have to take into account, like, if I fly over you flying a drone, that's probably going to mess up your drone flying. So you got a lot of safety hazards in that. But they missed the blade tip vortex, Glenn says. Is that not what the oh, so there's another one that comes off the end of the tip, I'm assuming is what you mean? Not that blue circle line or bluish purple line that's following the things? And maybe that's what they're representing in the colors that the drone has ended up. Like every time a blade goes past the body of the drone, they're kind of showing off some colors. I'm not sure if that matches it, but they needed a 3D supercomputer to be able to get that far. So maybe they still have some tweaks left on it. But I thought it was pretty cool. Pretty cool little graphic either way, and interesting concept to think of. So I didn't get a chance to read this, but the title really piqued my interest. Yeah, maybe. I see what you're saying when, like, at the tip, I would imagine there could be something going off the side, but maybe it's such a small effect that it wasn't worth visualizing, or they didn't see it, or it only mattered when it hit the body. I don't know what their details were behind it all. But this article was really, really interesting to me. I didn't get to read it, but the title, I mean, is really interesting to me. Apparently, there's proof that the creators of Batman, the animated series, knew what they were doing from the start. And I gotta say that the Batman, the animated series, is probably by far one of the best non-anime cartoon TV shows that I've ever seen. It was by far the best depiction of Batman, I feel. But I mean, overall, it was just so well done. Like, they made it such a dark cartoon that it was still good enough for kids to watch and not be freaked out, but it was also good enough for, I mean, even as an adult, I've gone back and watched them, and they are amazing, amazingly done animations and show and concept and stuff. So
Big fan, Bradley.
have you ever watched them?
I have, as I recall, unless this is something really recent. Would this have been around when I was?
This is the older one.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So then it's probably the one I'm thinking about. Yeah. It was really well done. I was a little bit late in the game for being able to watch it as kind of steady pace as maybe if I was a couple years younger, but because I was graduating around that time, I think. But yeah, it was really, really well done. I do agree with him. Although I just interestingly enough, I rewatched Transformers the movie. I saw that in the movie theater in 1986. I just realized that was a little bit darker than I had imagined
Oh,
as
the
well at
original
times.
Transformers movie?
Yeah, it was a little bit darker than I imagined it at times. First of all, I didn't recall them actually using the word, SHIT in it, and there was also some scenes that were, pretty ruthless, that I really don't think they would have approved for the Saturday morning version of it. But and I was also very surprised to learn that it did very poorly in the box office when it was first released. And I think it's got some cult following since. I still find it fun to rewatch it. I mean, the animation isn't great compared to today, but it's.
Oh, it was a cartoon version.
Yeah, it wasn't a real.
Yeah, I don't know if I might have watched it, but it definitely didn't stand out. The live action ones are so fresh in my mind that it completely overruns it, and I enjoy the live action ones.
Well, that if you go back and watch that Transformers the movie, the original animated one from 1986, you'll I mean, that was just like watching the cartoons. That's how I remember Transformers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked the cartoons, and that's why I'm saying I probably did see the movie. It's just it probably just blended
The
in.
storyline in the cartoons actually got even better when they did the movie because they actually kept Transformers on, and they tried to combine, tried to pull as much of that story into the regular show, and they came up with these really wonderful episodes post the movie, and it got more dramatic, almost to the point like, comparing the Batman animated series like you were talking about to earlier incarnations of Batman. Certainly the back in the day one too. Batman and Robin.
I was just reading over that article a little bit, and apparently they were aiming for the Tim Burton Batman movie as one of their main.
Tim Burton does dark.
Forces, yeah. So I mean, I really cannot talk up for that show enough. It was a really great show. But anyway, moving on. Proctor, when I saw this, I thought of you. You can give your daughter some extra homework. They have a guide to getting to know everything about using a multimeter.
Oh, is this? Are you trying to dig into your Arduino? Is this why you come up with the?
Yeah, I just saw it come up, and I remembered Proctor shared a picture of Hannah playing around with a multimeter. I'm sure Perry could probably tell her all of this stuff. So
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity. Hey, listen, get your kids involved in STEM as early as possible. That's all.
Yeah, because otherwise they won't have jobs when they grow up.
Yeah.
You need to have your kids making electronics, like those things that Nick posted on the show earlier, the code blocks and various games and things like that. Just get them into it as early as possible. I do have my Arduino here, though. I've been wanting to play around with it. I just haven't had the time. Still in the packaging and everything.
You might, well, no, there's maybe other things you need to work on. But when you do have some time, yeah, when you do have some time, let us know.
Definitely will. Glenn, no worries. All right, well, we are getting close to our hour time limit here and wrapping up this week here. But I got a couple other links. This one I just came across. Apparently, the Switch is also going to come with a app to help parents with parental controls, setting time limits, daily use, and game rating restrictions, just to name a few things, I believe. So that's pretty cool.
Switch?
Yeah, the Nintendo Switch new console that they're coming out with, it's going to have an app that you can use on your phone to.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
you manage it from your phone. Cool.
Yeah, see, here's the first thing I thought of when you said Switch. I immediately went back to my childhood when Grandma made me go pick something off the rose bush. Like long. branch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting to me is that like I know you've had experience trying to set up parental controls and things on the Xbox and such, and that was a difficult task for you.
Don't bother. It's not worth it.
Yeah, so
Not that doing it is difficult. It's just then getting around it is like as simple as logging into a new account or whatever, their friend.
yeah. Well, what I was thinking is maybe
And
it would possibly help a lot of parents out there not having to interact with the console itself and just being able to use an app on their phone, because it's
oh yeah.
they'll be able to use an app on their phone versus setting up the console and then, like you said, knowing the tricks around it and stuff like that.
That's a proctor thing. It's not even a trick. It's like if their friend comes over, it's like, oh, hey, look, I notice I can do this.
Yeah, I'll just sign in with mine and look, I can play
Yeah.
everything.
And it's like, I mean, and in this house, when with kids from both sides of the from previous marriages, it's like it's the other parent's house. They have their own account, and it's not worth it. It's the modern home. Xbox parental controls are not suited for the modern home.
Yeah. What are you saying there, Glenn? Glenn said there was some stuff on bleeping on the latest INO on ransomware. More on why on Twitter. Too lazy to move from phone to here. I got the last part. Too lazy to move from phone to here. Completely understand that. But the first sentence there, yep, got the info part of the NIO. But I was looking at Bleeping Computer recently. I didn't see. Let me just pull them up here and see what we can find. They make it easy.
I always got them open. Let's see.
Latest.
Oh, they did some insight into Cerber, and it looks like they got their weekly roundup. There's
Oh no, this is the one. Maybe this is the one he's talking about. So a misconfigured server gives insight into Cerber's ransomware operation. Is that maybe the one you're talking about? Still drugged from dentist work. Awesome. Those make some of the best posts on video sites. So you might want to record yourself, Glenn. But yeah, so apparently malware or Bleeping Computer has an article, and I just posted it there. A misconfigured server gives insights into Cerber ransomware operations. So apparently they were able to find a server that was in operation and usage for Cerber, and gained access to some more information about how they got things set up, what they're doing, how it works, and various things of that nature. So cool. If that was the one. If not, let's see what other latest ones they got. The WhatsApp bug exposed encrypted messages. I wasn't very interested in that. And looks like the other one is this week in ransomware features. Nothing other than the Marlboro ransomware was defeated in one day. We'll go ahead and put that one out there just for having some info out there. But all right, we are at our hour time limit, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap her up for today. One last just for fun link. Apparently it's a great idea to take a train around Alaska. You'll get some awesome sights and not have to worry about being stuck in the middle of Alaska as much. So there's that if you want to see that. And maybe, hey, you don't even have to go to Alaska. You could just watch the video maybe. But I think on that note, we'll wrap it up unless anybody else has got anything they're really desperate to get off their chest. No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will be back this coming Monday at 8 a.m. for our Monday show. And again, we are here mainly to provide support and assistance for any of our products and services. if you do have any of those in the meantime, you can always feel free to contact our support by the various means we have on our site. And if you really want to talk to us directly, you can wait until Monday and talk to us then. So thanks everyone for joining us and participating. Always a pleasure. And Glenn, hope you feel better from the dentist work and everything worked out fine. And yep, we will see you on Monday, I think. Bye, Internet.
Internet.
Take us on out, Proctor.